Super ball, here's Ben Thornley. Looking up for support, might go alone, does go alone. Super finish.
I can understand why you'd ask that question. I think what it did was it helped me to exercise some demons, to really sort of get everything out there, warts and all, make sure that everything that was in the autobiography was the whole truth. There was nothing exacerbated or made up.
The VAR Show. The one place for your weekly football update.
Hola, a very warm welcome to the VAR Show, the show which talks about all the various major football leagues in detail. Today we are going to continue a theme of interviews. And we have a very interesting guest as usual. We have the former Manchester United player, the class of 92 star who never got to graduate. We have Mr. Ben Thornley with us. Nonetheless, he has gone on to have a very good and successful careers playing for the likes of Huddersfield Town and Aberdeen, among a host of other teams. So without wasting much time, I would like to first thank Ben for coming on the show. Thank you so much and welcome to the show. I would like to begin the interview by asking you, how are you and what are you doing during this pandemic period?
First of all, thanks very much for having me on. Really appreciate it. It's been a long time. I think the UK is now into the third month of obviously this pandemic. The lockdown started in March, beginning of April, and I think basically the same as everybody else. It's been a tough time. We've never seen anything like this anywhere in the world, not just in the UK. But we have been with MUTV. We've been doing a Zoom chat as this is every morning with really good guests on. This morning we had Paul Scholes, so everybody will be interested to see that. But we've had the manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we've had Ryan Giggs, we've had some absolutely fantastic guests. So that has helped to reduce the boredom somewhat. And we'll keep it going into next week, obviously getting ready for the season to start again. But yeah, it's been a tough time for everybody.
So that means we are not getting some controversial answers about United today. So we'll talk about your playing career. Starting off, you had quite a successful career. Like many people or many players would want to achieve that much. Like you played for very big teams, the likes of United, Aberdeen, Huddersfield Town. How do you look back as your career as a whole?
Obviously, with some slight disappointment because I wasn't able to fulfil because of the injury my early potential that I showed at Manchester United. But yeah, with the expert surgeon that I had to repair my knee, plus the number of brilliant people that I had around me while I did my rehabilitation at Manchester United, I was still able to forge a career out of the game, which is something that when I did the injury, I didn't think I would be able to do. I've had the privilege of playing with some superb players, with some fantastic characters as well, not just at Manchester United, but at all the teams that I've played with. Obviously, they hadn't been there at the time, but subsequently both Huddersfield and Blackpool got themselves into the Premier League at one time or another. And Aberdeen have managed to sustain a very good challenge with certainly with Celtic, and now it's Rangers again in the SPL. So yeah, I have played for some very, very good clubs, and I've enjoyed myself wherever I've been.
So I have to address the elephant in the room. Okay, so how detrimental was the tackle made by Nicky Marco on your career?
Well, yeah, it was. I don't think there's any way to skirt around that issue. I think that at the time I'd had 2 fantastic years in the youth team, and then things were going really well when I had my first year in the reserves. I made my debut in 1994, which was something very, very special. And things were going extremely well, not just for me, but for all the boys that I grew up with in the class of 92. We'd all had a taste of training with the first team and had made our debuts. So yeah, it was it was these injuries don't come at a great time for anybody at any stage in their career. But certainly when it happened to me, it was really detrimental, and unfortunately I wasn't able to come back the same player I was before it happened. And when you're talking about playing elite football, and that is where Manchester United are in the world of football, there's a very, very sort of fine line in being able to achieve that and sustain it. And I wasn't at that level anymore, unfortunately. And the rest of the lads that I grew up with, I mean, they were always going to be fantastic players and extremely successful. But they left me behind, and I wasn't able to carry on the great work that I'd showed leading up to the tackle. So yeah, what they achieved, absolutely fantastic. I'd be the first to congratulate them, but it was never going to happen for me once the injury came.
So you were very unfortunate with the injury, but one thing you at least gained was a lot of experience and how to get over the injury. So like many of the young players these days would probably unfortunately will go through similar stuff. What advice would you give them to overcome the injury?
Well, first and foremost, don't get too down. It's very, very easy, especially when you have an injury that was as career-threatening as mine was. It's very easy to think to yourself that it's never going to be the same again, and you feel like throwing in the towel. But my advice to you, and some players will feel like that. You need the motivation, and my advice is to talk. There's a lot in the game at the moment, and it's constantly being talked about is mental health, and there's no question that even though you have a physical injury, it does affect you mentally as well. So don't be afraid of going to speak to one of your teammates, to somebody like your manager or your physio, who is obviously going through your rehabilitation with you, or somebody in a professional capacity. Go and seek a little bit of solace in going to speak to somebody that is educated and qualified in being able to deal with the psychological impact that things like bad injuries do have on not just footballers but professional sportsmen and women in general. So don't be afraid of doing that, because it's been spoken about so much more these days. It's not as taboo a subject as it once used to be. And my advice would be, yes, you will get down. And if you can avoid doing that, great. But if you do find yourself in a little bit of a dark place, don't be afraid of going to speak to somebody. There is so many people on hand who are qualified to help.
Now, throughout your career, you have worked with very good managers, but one name that stands out is Sir Alex Ferguson. How was it working with him?
Let me tell you that Sir Alex Ferguson is not the most decorated manager that Manchester United has ever seen, for no reason. He's a fantastic man, first and foremost, and he applied his man management into being able to build successful football teams, and not just one. He did it with Aberdeen. He did it on, I would say, 3 occasions with Manchester United, the way that he built and dismantled teams and still built them to be successful. And let's not forget that he also took charge of Scotland in the 1986 World Cup as well. So he's had international experience. But working with Sir Alex, I obviously didn't get a chance to work with him in a capacity that I would have liked. But with me, he was incredibly fair, and I don't think that I probably would have been in the position that I'm in now if I didn't have him as my manager. Unbelievably helpful. Knew exactly, not just with me, but with all the players that he had through the door at Manchester United, instantly recognised how they needed to be treated, and that is why he was so successful. I mean, you could write books, and people have on the successes of people like Sir Alex, and that's why he gave motivational speeches to places like Harvard, because businesses outside the world of football were so keen to understand how one man could be so successful over such a long period of time. But having worked with him for 7 years, I could understand why, and anybody else that have worked under him for a lengthy time would know why he was so successful. But an absolutely fantastic man, and I am a better person for knowing him.
So did you ever get the infamous hair dryer treatment?
I was waiting for that question. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to be in the dressing room with him in a footballing capacity, but I'll probably tell you that I've seen it more than I've actually had it myself. I did get it once or twice in my early days, and it wasn't pleasant, trust me. But you know, once he's done it, it's instantly forgotten, and you move on, and you find a way to make sure that it doesn't happen again. But certainly it was quite scary being in a dressing room, whether it was you that was getting it or whether it was the person next to you. You still felt it.
So, on a personal note, did you ever consider getting into coaching?
I did a couple of coaching badges, but the interesting area that I wanted to move into was the media and punditry. I dabbled with going through all the way with my coaching badges, but along the way, I was given opportunities by the club to do some commentary work, and I don't just do stuff for MUTV. I do things for the radio stations in the UK as well, both local and national. So that was the area that I wanted to move it. More radio than TV, but in my capacity, I'm working with MUTV. Obviously, it does call to go on camera as well, and that was the area that I really fancied moving into once my playing career was over.
So you also have an autobiography from where I took out the intro for you. Tackle, the class of '92 star who never got to graduate. Who thought of the name?
Well, the guy that co-wrote the book with me, Dan Poole, we both put our heads together, and it didn't take us very long. I think with what had happened to me in my career, it was a fairly straightforward title. I think the bit that came after that was something that he thought of, not me. And when we pitched it to the publishers, they were really happy with it. And I think that it's with the word tackled, it's quite a hard hitting title. It's not really a mouthful. Yes, we have got the bit on the end of it, but tackled is what I call it, and what I preferred that other people that had seen the book and wanted to speak about it say. But yeah, I came up with that with Dan very, very quickly, and the reason why the book came about was Dan was a keen autograph collector. He was a big follower of not just my career, but the whole of the class of '92. And there was a couple of signatures that he had missing from his collection. And he wrote to me at the club and he asked me, would I mind meeting him in London to sign some of the stuff that he had outstanding. Absolutely no problem for me to do that. We sat down over a cup of coffee, had a chat for half an hour. And he then pitched the idea to me later on in a phone call, would I be interested in writing an autobiography? And at the time, I didn't think it would have been worthwhile. I didn't feel as though anybody would really have been interested in why my autobiography would have been interesting for other people, because I wasn't a big star by any stretch. But he thought that the people that I played with and the people that had gone on to be superstars in their own right, if I could get them to contribute to the book, it would make it a very interesting read. And I was very, very fortunate that everybody that I approached to help me write the book gave up their free time to contribute and do that and make it a very, very worthwhile exercise for me. And I'm not sorry that I did it. I took a lot of persuading to do it. But now that I've done it, I love the way that Dan wrote the book. It's different to other autobiographies, but I was really, really thrilled with the finished article, and yeah, it's actually quite a bit of fun in places.
So it's quite brave of you to have that tagline, the class of '92 star who did not graduate. Does it do you, when you look at that, don't you feel sad or something, like reflect back or something when you see the tag, because it will be associated with you? You have an autobiography and you have put that as a tagline.
Yeah, I can understand why you'd ask that question. I think what it did was it helped me to exercise some demons, to really sort of get everything out there, warts and all, make sure that everything that was in the autobiography was the whole truth. There was nothing exacerbated or made up. Everything that you read is 100% the truth. And I think that helped me to sort of get rid of excess baggage. And while, I probably did at times while I was doing it, look back on it with a little bit of sadness, I think that the way that the book came across and the fact that so many people gave up their time, like I said, to help me out with it, it actually made me quite happy that I'd had an impact on people over the course of my career, that they thought enough of me to contribute and to help me out. So with that, any sort of remnants of any sadness or anything, of that sort of an emotion, I think that evaporated with the completion of the book. So I certainly don't feel it now. I felt as though I was in a very, very privileged position that people were so kind to be able to do that. And people whose names resonate all over the world with the world of football: Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Sir Alex, David Beckham, Gary Neville, Nicky Butt, all the players that I played with, Brian Robson, who was my hero. The list is fairly endless to who helped me out. So I can't thank them enough.
So you should probably have your book available in Nepal also. You have a lot of United fans here. So, maybe they will read it. So when you were growing up, did you have any player or players whom you used to idolize?
Yeah, as I've just pointed out there, Brian Robson was really the person for me. I became interested in football when I was about 6 or 7 years old, which happened to coincide with the 1982 World Cup in Spain, when Brian Robson scored a goal against France after 27 seconds. And as soon as I saw that goal, and the fact that he was a player playing for my local club who I supported, who I was starting to support, Manchester United was always the club for me, and Brian Robson was the person that sort of got me interested and made me want to be like him. And then from 1982, nearly, I'm talking 9 years later, in 1991, I walked through the same door as Brian Robson to share the same building, to work at the same club, to train on the same training pitch. And to do something like that from being 6-7 years old was an absolute dream. But that was where the hard work started.
So when you look back at your career, if you had to choose one moment which you will cherish for the rest of your life, which one would that be?
I think it's got to be, because obviously I never won anything with the club outright. Apart from the 1992 FA Youth Cup, which was fantastic, and a lot of those lads that went on to win FA Cups, leagues, Champions Leagues, they will still hold a special place for that 1992 FA Youth Cup winning side, because it was such a long time since Manchester United had won it, and it was the first thing that we won with the club. And we all knew how cherished it was by Sir Alex Ferguson that we had a successful Youth Cup winning or a youth team to be able to bring players and progress them into the first team. But I think that the most special day for me has to be making my debut. When you first start watching football and you watch the team that you play for at such an early age as I was, you never envisage that you are actually going to pull on that shirt and play for that team in front of 40,000 people, which is what I did at Upton Park. So that was a very, very special moment that even though I didn't get a chance to do it very many times after that, that is something that nobody can ever take away from me, and something that I will remember for the rest of my life.
So the next set of questions can be very outrageous, okay? It is very controversial, and I want you to make it controversial. So okay, it might be you have to choose the out of the two, which one is the less poisonous. You have to choose that. So whom do you prefer? Which one do you prefer? Guardiola's tiki-taka or Jurgen Klopp's heavy metal football?
Well, I think certainly, even though it looks like Liverpool sadly are going to win the league, and you're asking me to choose the two managers of the two teams that Manchester United love to hate the most, But I think that that Pep Guardiola's Manchester City side, when they are at full flow with the players that they've got, they are a fantastic team to watch. And obviously, one of the two teams at the moment that Manchester United are trying to emulate and bridge the gap. But Guardiola grew up with Barcelona and obviously not just played for them but managed them as well. And he implicated that style of football into Manchester City, which obviously saw them win the league as well. So even though it looks like Liverpool are going to do it, and they have been fantastic, it pains me to say, I think in terms of sheer enjoyment to watch, I think it has to be the brand of football that Pep Guardiola plays at Manchester City.
Okay, the next one. They would have been your mates, like you said. Whom do you prefer out of the two, David Beckham or Ryan Giggs?
Oh, wow. I mean, two players that have...
I'll just include one thing. I didn't want to put Paul Scholes then because you would say that he's a different category of player and you would try to,
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, these lads were part of the basis for the early successes in the 90s of Alex Ferguson's side. I mean, David Beckham, brilliant on the ball, set pieces, can play a pass from anywhere, can score goals from anywhere, pinpoint crosses, worked brilliantly with Gary Neville. But I think if I just had to pick one of the two, it would have to be Ryan. I played with Ryan since, I first played with Ryan when I was 9 years of age. The most decorated player in English football, an absolute joy to watch. Not just that, but reinvented himself in a completely different position once his pace started to wane a little bit into his sort of mid to late 30s, and still had a massive influence over the way games were won at Manchester United late into his 30s and even into his 40s. So I think for pure longevity and what he managed to achieve, it's a very, very fine line between them both because they were both so exceptional. But I would just have to choose Ryan over David. But again, I would rather say none. But if you're making me choose, it would be Ryan.
So the last question is, which one do you prefer, Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo?
I thought that was going to be your final one. Well, I mean, these two players in the last 10 years have taken football to absolutely massive heights. I don't think there's anybody on the planet that has come really anywhere close to what they've been able to achieve. Two different players as well. I mean, Ronaldo, his pace and power, whereas Messi likes to pick up the ball and dribble. They're both an absolute joy to watch. But I think if I'm going to choose one, then it would have to be Cristiano Ronaldo, purely and simply for the fact that not many players, when they leave Manchester United, actually go on to a higher plane. And he managed to do that at Real Madrid, and he is still doing that at Juventus now. And although I would pay to watch both of them, I will just go for Cristiano Ronaldo. But I know that it will probably be a 50-50 split if you were to ask any football fan across the board. But with the fact that he's played for Man United and how many goals he's scored and the number of appearances he's done it in, then it's just Cristiano Ronaldo.
So on that note, Ben, thank you so much for talking to me, and I wish you all the best for your future endeavors. Maybe it be in media, or maybe you write another book. You never know. So. Thank you for coming on the show, and it was an honor talking to you. And take care and stay safe.
You're more than welcome. Thank you. Take care. All the best.